Yeah, I don't think we have to follow the same rules, but if you want to call it to order, you can.
For the design review committee.
For the, yeah,
We'll call to order for the design review committee.
great.
5:34
Okay. And then take roll call.
or we have Connie Redmond, Julie Cooper and Hannah Smith.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. Oh, no, I'm not.
No.
Host disabled participant screen sharing. That happened in the DEI meeting.
Here. There you go. Now you can do it.
Ta-da. Okay. So let's go here. All right. So we are in chapter 16.26, which is the downtown zone of the development code. And that is in the way, no. And that chapter says that for any new building or significant remodel in the downtown zone, the proposed work needs to go through downtown design review. The city can appoint a design review committee to do that review. We don't technically have to, but because this food cart pod that you're going to be looking at was a conditional use and had to be approved by the planning commission, there are some what's the word? Not subjective, but kind of discretionary decisions that need to be made there. The planning commission did want the design review to be done by a design review committee and not just by staff. And that was our recommendation too. So, so thank you for taking some time to go through this design with us. And what we need to check here is the proposal compatible with sections 5 through 9 of this code? So we're going to look at the color requirements, the transparency requirements, other standards. And we're going to go through the design review rubric and make sure that at least 65% of the total possible points are accumulated. And make sure that at least 1 point in each category on the table is received. If we get through all of that and we find, you know, it's missing 1 point in this section, or it only has 60% of the total possible points, what we can do is provide some guidance for the applicant who's here with us tonight, and let him know what does he need to change in order to bring it, you know, into conformance with the code requirements. Are there any questions before we go dig in? Okay. I'm going to minimize this so that I can, or did you want to pull up the design on your computer, or do you want me to just
Either way,
matter to
it's
you?
fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Either way will be up here.
Okay. I will just pull it up because I have it up.
Okay.
All right. So
And you should all have, I printed these up and put them in front of you. And I figured we can all do it as a group. So the options are not applicable, 0, 1, or 2. 2 being yes, all the way, 0 being no.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of bummed that these pictures didn't come through yet. I have a better copy.
Oh, okay. Would you be okay with passing it, or, you know, they could just kind of flip through it? Cause yeah, we just have the scan of it.
Oh, cool. Okay. So we'll pass it down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
That's why
Oh,
it's
wow.
good to show up to the meeting.
Yeah.
And yeah, even, I mean, it looks even different on that
Yep.
screen compared to my screen. We
Yeah.
just printed it out for ourselves and our printer made it super dark.
Yeah.
But you can see on my computer screen here that it's not that dark. Anyway, okay, so I'm just gonna flip through the pictures and the site plan real quick before we go into the rubric. So, what we're looking at on the screen are the side elevations. So the top one is, well, actually, I'll show you the front of it first. Ah, geez.
It's coming around.
Let's rotate this. So there is what the main entrance front of the building is proposed to look like. This would be facing Acacia Street. So this is, as it's currently proposed, this is not what would be facing Highway 224. It would be facing out towards Acacia. And then the sides, so if we're looking at it this way, that means that the right side of it is what is facing 224. And then the left side of it is what is facing Larch Road behind the site. So going back up to the top here, and we are gonna, nope, I'm sorry, everybody. Okay, so now, the top part here, that is what's facing Larch Road. So that's facing the south side. And then the bottom part is what would be facing Highway 224. And their site plan shows that they would have some sidewalk and potentially landscaping on that side facing 224. So that might be something to consider. Okay. Let's get into the standards. So before we get to the rubric, the design is considered compatible if these few sections are met. So the first section in that list is number 5 in that section of code, which is exterior color. And that's where we have the requirement that, we have the downtown pre-approved paint palette. And so any new painting or developments would need to use the colors that are in that collection, or it doesn't have to be that specific brand, but it has to match some of those colors. And so they included in their submittal, they indicated which colors from the brand that they would like to use match those pre-approved paint palettes. So that is met as far as we are concerned. And then the other subsection under the paint requirement is that the transition between the base colors and the accent colors should relate to changes in building materials or the change of building surface planes. So we can see that they've got multiple different building materials and different colors proposed here. And yes, the differences in the colors are separated by the differences in materials. They don't just have random colors changing throughout the same wall, basically. So that is also met. The other sections here are not applicable, so we'll skip down to the next one that is, which is that number 7 on this list is primary entrances should face the street that's likely to have the most pedestrian traffic. This is something that came up in the Planning Commission hearing for this conditional use approval. And they had a discussion about how this standard is kind of odd to apply to properties that are on the other side of the highway. There was discussion about how that standard makes a lot of sense in this part of the downtown zone, but doesn't make as much might not make as much sense on the other side of the highway. And so they wanted to basically punt the decision of whether to adhere strictly to that to the DEC. And so basically the question for the DEC or for this review committee is which of those streets, you have Highway 224, Acacia Road, and Larch, which go around all three sides of that property. Which of those streets do you think is likely to have the most pedestrian traffic? And or do you think that standard is really important to apply to this type of development where you have a food cart pod and a central building? As it is now, they've got the main entrance of the central building facing east towards Acacia Street. So that's something we can either discuss right now or save till after the rest of the review.
I think Acacia gets a lot of traffic and that would be a good option. I see the advantage of having it phase 224. Yes, there's a lot of traffic, but I also think that might be distracting to people driving on 224. Taking a look at what's there.
And this is for a walkway?
This is for the main building entrance.
Oh, okay.
So the orientation of the building is currently proposed to be, the front door facing towards Acacia.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Agree with what Connie said?
Acacia is a,
Yeah. Julie. You see it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it if the committee doesn't have a problem with it. Yeah.
I would prefer if you're going to speak though, to come up and speak in front of a microphone so that it's
Oh,
picked up on the recording.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta
grab
get
a
close.
seat.
Yeah.
If you have any question about the orientation of the building, if you went to the site plan, I can kind of explain what our thoughts were. And it's kind of hard to see on there, but the reason why we don't have it facing 224 is one, there's no driveways on 224 to get into that in front of the parking lot. All the
Right.
driveways are going to either be on Larch or on
Yeah.
Acacia. And then I didn't want to hide the food cart part. I didn't want to hide the building part. So the way we have it now, the main entrance is kind of at an angle. If you parked anywhere in the parking lot, you're going to walk past food carts to get into the thing. So everybody, the food carts are going to you're gonna be able to see them. You're gonna be able to see the building. You're gonna be able to see everything's,
Right.
Sharing. Nothing's hidden behind anything.
Totally.
Which is the main reason we do it that way. Does that make sense? I know that
Absolutely.
I've shown this to a few people that don't quite understand, or they don't get the same picture in their head that I have when I drew it. So if you have any questions.
Scott, could you hear him on Zoom? Oh, you muted yourself, Scott.
Sorry about that. Yes, I can. I can hear. him.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, I agree. I get it.
Yeah, and I think not to make arguments necessarily on the applicant's behalf, but I do think that in some sense that standard has a lot to do with having the business be visible to those high traffic, especially high pedestrian traffic,
Yeah.
but high traffic streets. And so I think the orientation that he's talking about, where that main entrance is not covered up from either direction by the food carts or by any other part of a building, it's visible. It is visible from both the highway, from a lot of the highway, as well as from Acacia. So you could make the argument that it meets some of the intent of that standard anyway. Any other thoughts?
No, I didn't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Scott, did you have anything to add, Scott?
No, I'm actually just going over the drawing and taking a look. I like the idea of having the front of the building facing towards especially high pedestrian traffic areas. And I heard someone mention that, having it facing 224, could be kind of it could be a deterrent, especially if you're driving. So, I mean, I'm with them on that as well.
Okay.
The big part is that if it's going to be used, then we need to face it so that it's, it gets the most, the entrance gets the most sight. And so I'm in agreement with what's going on. I'm in agreement with this plan. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yeah, and it's still like, it's gonna be a beautiful building, so seeing the side of it, it's still gonna bring your attention. I don't
Yeah.
know. Cause sometimes you're like, well, you don't see it from the street. But I think it's gonna be built well, so it's still gonna bring attention.
Okay.
All right, great. So we will check that one off. The next item that that will be required is that, the transparent element requirement, 50% of the face of a building's ground floor. And I will exclude the upper floor part because it's just one story. So 50% needs to be transparent elements. So basically window. And the top of ground floor transparent elements, so the top of the windows, or a door that is windows also counts towards that. The top of those elements should not be lower than 84 inches above the average exterior finished grade of the building wall.
Say that again.
I know. I was like,
Basically, the windows shouldn't be too low. So the top of those windows shouldn't be lower than 84 inches below. No, I'm sorry. Should not be lower than 84 inches above. There it is. Above the grade, so the ground level of that floor. So the windows shouldn't be too low, basically.
I think that what they're wanting is it to be eye level.
Okay.
And looks
As
like
it
they
should.
need
I mean, it's a one-story building.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right. And so there are a bunch of other, specifics in this section that we'll check off at the building permit stage. But for the purpose of this review, I don't think we received exact calculations. They do show quite a bit of transparent elements here. I'm not sure that it's a whole 50% of what's required. But what we could do for the purpose of this evaluation is make sure that they have a condition of approval that in order for us to issue a building permit, they just need to show that 50% minimum is indeed met. The one thing about that is that the back of the building and the part of it that is interior to the development that standard would not apply to that. So the part where they're showing like the garage doors, for example, those are inside of the food cart pod. I think they look great.
And they have
But they
clear
wouldn't-
panels on them.
Right,
Right.
but those wouldn't count toward, like, this part of the code is intended to make sure that those transparent element requirements are intended to basically boost the public pedestrian realm. So it doesn't have anything to do with windows that are interior to a site. It's all about what is on the front, what's going to be along the frontage of where people are going to be walking along the sidewalk or seeing it from the right of way. So my reading of that would mean that these garage doors that are going to be inside of and covered up by the food carts wouldn't count towards that. But for example, the other side that faces 224 and then the entrance that faces Acacia would be subject to that. Any questions? Henry? Yeah, please.
So on that, the transparency thing, I talked to the code enforcement guy that you turned me on to, I forget his name. And he told me that there will be problems in getting that amount of, he called it fenestration, which is like clear elements. But these garage doors are gonna have clear glass. So it's not like they're gonna be garage doors that are shut and you can't see through them. But he said that you'll have a problem with meeting energy codes and not going over the maximum fenestration. If I'm required to have that on all of the sides, I may be able to get 50% on one side of the building, but when you start taking that much material out, I won't be able to meet the other building codes to make it happen. So I don't know if there's any, variance or any kind of, I don't know, exception that you can make on those kind of things, which I'm sure we'll run into in the building permit process, but.
I mean,
So-
generally, when we're talking about this, we're looking at, say, a building on Broadway where two sides are blocked by other
Yeah.
buildings. And so really, you're talking about 50% of the front facing side.
Right.
That
And
was my next.
That's,
question, is
so
the
that's
other-
part of the problem is he has two front facing sides on this building. He's gonna have
Right.
the front facing Acacia and then the front facing the highway.
So is it up to us to determine whether this rule applies to just the front or since there's two being exposed, it has to be 50% for both? Or how does that work?
Yeah.
Or close to?
Yeah,
Or is
close
it up to
to.
us?
I'm sorry, what side is the front on? With
The fr-
facing what street?
Acacia,
Okay, thank you.
yeah,
Which would be that.
which would be
Mhm.
this. And I don't know measurement wise, but with the garage doors, that might be 50% for this side, but I think you'd probably have trouble with the highway to side.
Right.
And Taylor,
Now-
you were saying for the garage door that wouldn't count? Or just if,
The garage
If-
door on this front main entrance would count
oh, okay.
in terms of the code being interpreted as intended for the sides that are facing the right of way or that are visible to the right of way. But you might have a case for a variance in this situation where the property has 3 frontages. It's like a
Mhm.
peninsula.
So I may be able to ask that you
Um,
only consider one for that percentage.
Right.
And, I believe that in the past, they've made a variance and required public art, because is that not what they did for?
They
the-
have, they've done
Mhm.
that and there have been variances done for cases like these where there's a like structural reason for not meeting the transparency requirement.
Right.
where the applicant just needed to show that they were providing the maximum physically possible, basically, or, reasonably possible transparent element. So, yeah, I think the DEC or this group could, what I would advise and what I think would be the most in line with the intent of the code would be, have them submit basically the, your builders or contractors, explanation and calculations showing the engineer. And then, yeah, if there was a public art element, like a mural, possible on one of the walls, or maybe something else that this committee would see as a good trade-off.
Yeah.
Or, slightly more landscaping, something else that is maybe more doable. That's part of the requirements of the downtown
Yeah.
design elements.
That's true. And so are these 8 feet, Henry? The windows? No, width. I think, is that what it's written out? I think it's 8. Okay, yeah, cool. Those are big windows. It's just hard to tell on
Yeah.
a drawing,
On the drawing.
but.
Which ones are the 8-foot windows? Are we talking about the overhead doors,
No,
I was on the,
No.
looking at the side.
on the side view.
the side view? Okay.
Yeah.
Which would be facing 224.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And how high up does and the river rock goes up 4 feet? Okay. I see.
Henry, are you planning on any landscaping or? Or is it- Yeah.
But
Cool.
we have a lot of possible space along 2.4 between the sidewalk and where the traffic.
Yeah.
Area that we can have quite a bit.
Or potential other pedestrian amenities.
Okay,
So like benches, seating,
Oh,
those
okay.
kind of things too.
cool. Cause I think I saw like bike racks too or something.
Yeah.
Awesome. So where do we go from here? Do we?
Yeah, do you all
Good.
have any like specific thoughts on, if you're gonna offer a reduction in the transparent element requirement, is there, what would make up for that in terms of kind of public benefit?
Out of curiosity, when was the last time we had a new mural?
So one will be going up on the side of the Dollar General in August. And I think Art Back plans one a year,
I think
They
every other
do.
year.
every other year.
Yeah.
Okay.
They kind of redo older ones in the other year. So
Oh,
they do
okay.
one new one and then kind of repaint redo the older ones.
Mhm.
So it'd be probably 2 years until one was
Yeah.
on the side.
Is he amenable to having a mural on the side of their building?
On the spot.
Can I mention something about that? Recently, they've been putting the mural on a board, so it's attachable, so it can come off.
Okay.
That's
cool.
I think that's what they're trying to do with most new murals.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead and just take a seat right there.
You're Chris.
I've
Yeah.
actually had a few people come up to me and upset that this building project would kind of block the view of the mural that's on the side of the adjacent building. So we've kind of already thought about either, we're gonna have a big space inside that we would possibly offer to, I mean, I'm not familiar with who does the murals and what that is.
Yeah.
So I mean, there really is no way to go about not blocking what's on there now.
Right.
And it is painted right on the building, so you can't take it off of there.
Mhm.
But I'm more than, open to, talking to whoever does the murals and seeing what kind of space they would need and how that would fit in and yeah.
Oh, and I know one mural that's on the side of a building that doesn't face a popular street, so we do have murals that are tucked in other places.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
but I think they have to be outside because there's tours that are
Mhm.
not dependent on business hours.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it
yeah.
does have to be an outside mural.
We were just
Mhm.
trying to come up with,
Yeah.
Options.
Yeah, and I don't know what the logistics of this would look like, but in my mind, just because there are windows on the
Yeah.
side facing 224 doesn't necessarily mean that you couldn't put a mural on the surface around the windows. So that could be an option. Or even,
Yeah,
a series
I
of
think there could be
smaller.
something super rad done to it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to say because it's not my building. I mean,
The artifact folks are very creative.
but yeah, as for the windows, I think focusing on the front 50% is ideal. I mean, they've got windows, windows are important, but when it comes down, I think to the 50% and stuff, I think focusing on the front.
And when you say front, you mean
The
facing
acacia.
224 or facing
Yeah.
acacia?
Yeah,
Okay.
more so, and giving a little more leniency on versus doing all sides.
And then what about the possibility of decorating with like outside seating?
Mhm. Now, I would assume you're planning outside seating.
we're gonna have seasonal outdoor seating.
Mm.
Obviously, the 6 months out of the year, that's not gonna make any sense.
Yeah.
So
9 months this year.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there is gonna be space for some outdoor seating. But because of the parking requirement,
Mm.
there's not, we
Yeah.
have to have a lot of spaces for the square footage that the building is, plus the 6
Right.
food carts. So we've had to use more space for parking than we otherwise would have.
Mhm. Makes sense.
So what I'm hearing is, sounds like we are okay with the applicant demonstrating that they're providing as much transparent elements as is structurally feasible within reasonable expectations around engineering.
Right.
In it sounds like there's interest in that being granted in exchange for some kind of mural or landscaping or pedestrian amenities. Do you want to leave that up to the applicant to propose which of those they would like to provide?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can include a condition of approval, that they would provide some type of additional pedestrian amenity, landscaping, or community mural, in exchange for that reduction in the transparent element requirement.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think we are ready to go through the table here. I think you all have that in front of you. It looks like this.
Yep.
Okay. And Scott, you would have received this. This is in the packet. So some of the point system. Some of the points are like, it'll tell you that, you know, it's a yes or no question and no equals 0 and yes equals 2. But then some of them have no equals 0 and yes equals 1, but there's the option for 2. So we're going to go through this assuming that no is 0, yes is 2. And if it's somewhere in between, if they haven't quite met the requirement, but partially, then half point is 1. So just to simplify that, and we have added that to the list of things that need to be fixed in the code, rest assured. Okay, so the first one here, all building entrances shall be recessed or covered by pedestrian shelters. Their plans show that both the front entrance and the side entrances are indeed covered by shelters, and these garages too. So we've got a yes there. Primary building entrances shall be at least 50% transparent so that two-way views in and out of a building are possible. And it looks like, yes, indeed, those doors are proposed to be window doors. So that is a yes also. Oops. So points possible for that section is 4. Points received is 4, unless I hear any objections. So now looking at building openings, architectural detailing shall define building entrances. So here we've got not just the awnings, but you know, the door has like its own framing. They are proposing light fixtures on the sides of the entrances. So I would say that's a yes.
Are the entrances ADA?
I think we'll be getting to that, but my
okay,
assumption was yes.
okay.
They show an ADA restroom
Restroom, yeah.
indoors, so I would hope that
Okay.
someone could get in to use it.
Okay, okay.
Um, The next one is about Broadway Street, which this does not apply to. Wall-mounted lighting consistent with the architecture of the building shall illuminate primary building entrances and building-mounted signage. So I am seeing wall-mounted lighting, certainly around the entrances. I'm not sure about the signage that they have. Maybe Henry can.
So my plan for the big sign on the side that faces 224 is to have it like laser cut out of steel. And then have it backlit, so it'll kind of glow. That's just one I found from another business, but.
Cool. I like that.
The signs will have to go through the sign permit
Which is separate.
process, which is separate. You would do it at the same time as your building permit application. And I'm just gonna see if I can find out really quickly. Signs that are visible from Highway 224 have to go through the ODOT sign permit process. Probably good to start that sooner than later. And this is taking a little while, but yeah, we can, nice. We can, I can help you.
Okay.
Make sure that the city's sign code is met, and if you need anything from us for the ODOT process, then we can help you with that. So the sign would be illuminated ideally, like he's proposing there. And then the entrances, yes, they are shown to be illuminated, so I put yes for that one. This is one where your rubric shows yes equals 1. I'm counting that yes as a 2. So the possible is 4 and the received is 4. Next one is new buildings shall follow prominent horizontal lines on existing adjacent buildings such as window trim, parapet line, or awning line. The existing adjacent building, we don't have up here for comparison.
It's a concrete block.
It's a black and
Yes.
white.
Nice.
You can just look out the window
Yeah.
and see.
I know, I was like,
So there's not
So
A
that's just saying it
ton.
needs to be the same.
to go off of. There aren't prominent horizontal lines on the adjacent building was
Yeah.
where
I mark that as not
was what
applicable.
I would say. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. I
Yeah.
put yes, but I think it could also be not applicable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to do not applicable?
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The next one is is for 2-story buildings, so that one is also not applicable. The next one is new buildings shall incorporate rhythmic divisions relating to historic building patterns and proportions. This was another one where I'm curious what the committee wants to do here. The adjacent buildings are not, you might argue that they don't have the historic building patterns going on. This is, you might think that this is a standard that kind of applies more to older downtown Estacada, where there are more historic building patterns. So either not applicable or no, or half, or yeah, what do you think?
NA, I would think.
Not applicable?
I would lean towards not applicable.
All right. New buildings shall reflect vertical orientation through volume, roof form, and or surface detail, such as vertically oriented sash windows, brick or stucco cladding and trim, or board and batten siding. So they do show the siding having this vertical orientation kind of texture.
I would say the windows though on the highway side are probably horizontally oriented.
The windows are more of a horizontal orientation. So I would say that the siding certainly meets that. The windows don't necessarily meet that. Other thoughts? Half point or one of two?
Well, they really are horizontal orientation, aren't they, on the side of the building?
The windows,
Yeah.
yes.
The windows are
The siding is, the
ribs on the side.
yeah, the ribs on the siding, thank you.
That
Mhm.
have a point.
Is, does have a vertical orientation, but the windows don't. Half a point,
So
1 point.
one, yeah.
okay. So there was only one item in that section was applicable. So that is 2 points possible, 1 point received. Materials and color. Exterior cladding shall be consistent with historic building design. Materials may consist of brick veneer, stone, split face concrete block, clapboard siding, board and batten siding, or similar materials. So they're proposing
It's metal. The siding is.
metal siding.
What is cladding?
You're asking me hard questions, Connie. Cladding, I don't know. I just think of it as, oh, that's siding. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the metal siding that is from the wainscoting stone and above it's ribbed like every 9 inches, and it's ribbed, I think, to look like board and batten siding without having to do that.
To be.
So
board and
it's
batten siding.
mimicking that look, but it's not.
Mhm. Yeah, and then the material below it is
stone.
stone.
Okay, so it's not a corrugated metal siding. It's more of like almost made to look like a tongue and groove type of siding,
No, are you?
Like a standing seam.
like a
Yeah,
standing
well,
seam.
the roof is a standing seam. The siding is actually, it's from that Medallion Industries and it's called Magna Rib. And it basically has one big rib and then two shallower ribs, then another big rib, and it overlaps itself. It's not corrugated it's the same corrugated over and over and over again, like old metal buildings.
Okay,
So
and that's what I was really kind of wondering. So,
Yeah. So
So is that a two?
is that a 2 or a 1.5? Or just a 1? I think it's certainly not a 0. They've also, you might want to consider that they've got the wood. I don't know if this doesn't really come up anywhere else in this rubric here, but the entryway and the awnings, they're showing, if I'm understanding this correctly, like wood beams for those. Which nicely
That's
lends to
nice.
the, timber feel. So what do we think? 2 points for siding, 1.5, 1.
Thinking two.
I was thinking too, yeah.
All right,
yeah, I think too.
I'm hearing 2s. Great. Okay, the next one is that all 4 sides of the building shall contain complementary exteriors. I have never really understood what this,
Yeah, I just think it
means?
means like you can't have the back of the building be a completely different material than the
Right.
front.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
Is how
Or
I was
look
reading.
completely different. I mean,
Okay.
all sides of the building have to complement each other. That's, yeah.
Mhm.
yeah,
So two.
Yeah.
that's one of the more subjective ones that we need you all for. Okay, so I'm hearing 2 points there. Pitched roofs shall be wood, slate, cement tile, asphalt shingles, flat metal, or standing rib seam sheet metal, which he was just saying it was. So that one's a yes. Buildings fronting Broadway Street, that one's not applicable. So this section, there were 6 possible and there were 6 received. And the last section here is pedestrian shelters and public space. Buildings fronting Broadway Street, that one is not applicable. At least 3% and not less than 300 square feet of each new development site shall be designated and improved as ADA accessible civic space. So if we go to their site plan, we can see they are, okay. So they're
There's
proposing
an ADA ramp. Yeah.
new sidewalks. They will be ADA, they will have to be ADA accessible sidewalks with ramps according to city standards there. I don't think they show. I would recommend or request showing a like a walkway across, basically a walkway showing how pedestrians are going to get from the sidewalk to the like entrance of the building. And that could just be like paint on the asphalt or something like that.
are you referring to like if you were to walk there instead of drive, like if you're walking from the sidewalk on 224, what
Right.
would be your access point?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And yeah, that could just be paint.
Okay.
And then, so yeah, I think that would satisfy, like we would take the square footage of that would need to be ADA accessible walkway. to the main entrance, which, as you said, is also ADA accessible. And that square footage plus the sidewalk landscape that you're showing on the front side of that proposed building. Actually, if those, sorry, now that I should have thought of this earlier, but if those parking spaces that are on the north side of the building, if that's where you're going to have your handicap spot, then that sidewalk into the proposed building would satisfy that requirement that I was just saying. And so then you've got proposed bike parking here. If this was like one of the areas that you wanted to use to satisfy that minimum 300 square foot ADA accessible civic space, pedestrian amenities, if you wanted to provide a bench or, planters or something like that. That would.
Can I
that
ask
would
a
work.
question? So since we'd be putting in sidewalks along the whole length of Larch Road and Acacia, does that count towards the square footage?
Those ones don't,
Okay.
because they are just your standard frontage improvements
Okay.
in the city right of way.
Okay.
And so this standard this requirement would be what only applies to things that are on the private property of the site.
And would the handicap space, the space itself count towards that 300 square feet?
The car space itself,
Mhm.
the parking space would not count towards that.
Okay.
I am pretty sure, but I can confirm that.
Okay,
for
'cause I
you.
was a little
Follow
unclear
up.
on that too when I was trying to incorporate that into this, but.
Yeah. I'm gonna confirm that for you.
Are the doors on grade or are they elevated to where you're gonna need steps?
There will be no steps, no.
No steps, okay.
Okay. So, I guess how do we want to score this?
So the sidewalk facing to the highway. And then they also have this walkway on, it looks like on the back side of the carts here, cart 1, 2, and
That-
3.
That will be that stairway where it looks like the stairs and it says the garbage and.
No,
um,
no, no.
I
So
can't-
pedestrian flow towards Acacia. Is this a walkway?
That's, I was just trying to show how, because we were talking about which direction you get the most pedestrian traffic. So
Okay, so is that a walkway?
no, that's just trying to show where you would walk if you parked in the parking lot and you were coming into the.
Looks like that's labeled landscape.
Okay.
Yeah, and that whole area, so along Larch, behind those food carts there, all the way through the stairs that are drawn, and along the back of the food carts on the right there, that's all gonna be fenced. So you won't enter back there. There'll only be where the pedestrian flow is marked. That's where you'll be walking into the whole thing. And at
Okay,
night-
so
and at
you
night,
have-
that'll be closed. That'll,
So you have pedestrians walking through the parking lot.
from the parking spaces, there's no way around that.
If you could make this strip here, that landscape behind the carts, a walkway instead, then you would
Yeah,
have
no, we could do
pedestrian
that.
flow.
We could do that.
And I think that would probably fulfill,
Yeah.
I see, because people walking in from Larch. and stuff.
yeah, people walking in from Larch
So
from the
just have that
sidewalk.
Connect with the sidewalk on Larch.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, we can do
And,
that.
and make sure it's
Just
ADA
not-
accessible. I don't know if that's a grade
There-
down.
It's barely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
It,
Yeah. So if you could do that, then that would
mhm.
definitely satisfy that.
So that, walk along the fence.
So yeah, that would
Yeah.
make sense. If you were walking in from the sidewalk on
Mhm.
Larch, you would turn up
You're
that sidewalk and walk
Behind the cart where the fence is.
between the carts and the
Yeah. parking.
cars.
Yeah.
right there.
Mhm.
Right here. Right
And
here.
there's even room there to
Okay.
continue landscaping and a sidewalk, so.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
that would-
Great.
that would look nice. Okay,
Yeah.
I see where it says. landscape, but it's-
I think the ADA width is 4 feet.
Yes.
So, yep.
Yeah.
Great, okay, so what do we think? Assuming we have that ADA access from the Larch Road sidewalk, and we've got that sidewalk up along the front side of or north side of the building. Does that give them a 2 in this category?
I would say too.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the last one is street frontages shall be improved with pedestrian amenities equal to or greater than 0.5% of the estimated construction cost of the proposed buildings. I don't know if we have enough information for this one. Do you know
No,
the estimated cost? of the
very broad.
I'm gonna assume, given how large the frontage that they're dealing with is, compared to the size of the building, most of the buildings that are built or worked on in downtown are relatively small, but they also, most of them only have one of their property lines is on the frontage that's being improved. And so this site is really unique as it's got a really long frontage along both, it's got both Acacia and Larch Road. So I'm going to assume that this is met without having done any math.
So 2.
If you're all comfortable with that, then we would say 2, I think. Okay, so that means that 2 or 4 were possible there and 4 were received. Okay, so now let's add these up. So I have total possible is 20. Does that sound right to you all?
Yep.
Mhm.
And I have total, sorry. Total received, I have 19. Does that sound right? Okay. So that percentage is 95. Is that right?
It's definitely over 65. So
Am
we're
I
good.
am I doing weird math? No, yeah, that's right. And at least 1 point in each category was received.
Yes.
Yes. And we went through the standards in these subsections before we talked about these, but just to revisit them, we went through the transparent element standard and we went through the primary entrance standard. And we decided that both of those were met. So as far as I can tell, this proposal has passed design review and conditions of their approval in order for us to issue building permits are that they're gonna show this section here that is currently just labeled landscaping. They're gonna have an ADA accessible pathway coming from the sidewalk along Larch Road up to the building entrance. If that pathway could be painted, delineated in some way, you could choose how, all the way to the entrance, that would be great. And the other one was, in order to reduce the transparent elements, they're going to add, they can propose some kind of additional either landscaping or pedestrian amenities, which I think in the past we have allowed. We've let folks consider that bicycle parking or bike amenities. So if you wanted to add more bike parking to beyond what's the minimum required, or some kind of community mural or artwork on that side of the building facing 224.
Great.
Great. I will make sure that that's all captured in a letter of design review approval for you, Henry. And any other thoughts or concerns from the committee?
We don't make a motion because we don't have enough people. We're just.
Oh, I
Oh, we
don't-
do have a quorum now because Scott is
Oh,
here.
okay.
Yeah, so we
Aye.
could, we could make a motion to approve based on what,
Yeah, let's do it for the good of the order.
yeah, so based on the things that Taylor just said. The
Yeah,
walk,
that's what he has done.
the pedestrian,
What you said.
the ADA compliance showing the walkway and the marked pedestrian flow and the replacing part of the window requirements with either pedestrian amenities, landscaping, or public art.
Do we
You
have a
want that to be a
motion?
motion?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't make the motion.
Someone could say, I
Whatever
move,
Elena just said.
someone could
Yes,
say, I move
I
to
so moved.
approve the design with the conditions presented by staff.
I move to approve the yeah,
Design.
design with the conditions. With the conditions
From
presented
staff.
by staff.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Right.
passes.
Thank you very much
Took an oath
for
of us.
Okay.
stumbling through that with me.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time.
It's, it's a long meeting. I don't know that we're gonna get through the rest of the agenda items. But,
Is there proposed completion date?
oh, a lot longer. Okay, so we're looking at next year before it's completed. Okay. Okay, so then if we want to move on to the agenda to adopt the minutes from last meeting.
Thank you. Thanks, Henry.
All right. So can we adopt the meeting or the minutes from last meeting? I move that we hold on, adopt the minutes from last meeting from a second.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Great. Okay, and then staff had a couple things. I wanted to let you know that the budget went before the budget committee and was approved. It goes before council next week. I'm sure we'll have no trouble passing the budget. There was a couple of code discussions of things. One was the vacant building codes that we had discussed. There's a lot of research. The lawyer got involved, so we're looking a few months out. Yeah. But I think it'll end up being a lot more robust than what we suggested. Because the council, we had suggested $100 a year fee, and the council was thinking more like $100 a month.
Yeah.
So we're looking at different options, and I think it'll be more robust than what we suggested.
That's great.
And then the other was the food cart maintenance requirements that we talked about last meeting. I sent that to Taylor, and we're looking at moving those requirements out of the development code, so it'd be a little easier to pass them, and that's probably looking in July.
Well, the discussion with the council
Council.
about moving them out of the development code would happen in July, so that those development code amendments would happen sometime in the fall,
Yeah, because it takes
because-
like 4 months to
Sure.
pass
Right.
anything in the development code.
which is the point of taking them out of the development code.
Right.
So
Okay.
I'm
So,
gonna.
yep,
head out.
yep.
It was
Thank
really
you,
good to meet
Taylor.
you all and good to see you again. You rock.
So I think we should move the program plan update discussion to the next meeting, because I think that's going to be a much weightier discussion, the same with the promotions directory.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
we want to have plenty of time to go through both of those items, you know, especially going through the program plan, go through each item one by one and see if we want to change it or update it. So that's really a weighty discussion.
Yeah, more people too.
Yep.
I
yep.
agree. Yeah.
Okay. But there's a couple time sensitive items that we're going to want to get before the next meeting. One is the Main Street Awards.
Which that's hefty. Too.
So the Excellence on Main Awards, nominations are due July 22nd. We don't have to pick anyone today. I want you to look around town and you can nominate yourself. If you feel like your project, your building is fantastic, nominate yourself. They have categories. One is outstanding partnership. So that would be somebody that the Main Street program has worked with to partner on a project. Then leadership is nominating either the committee volunteers, board members, or other community leaders who have shown really good leadership as far as related to Main Street. Then amazing volunteers, the Main Street Manager of the Year, outstanding promotional event, brick and mortar rehabilitation, best new building project, creative placemaking. And I'm not sure if you guys understand what placemaking is. So a lot of placemaking is happening that creates community gathering spaces in places where there weren't before. So like parklets, I don't know if you've seen what a parklet is. Well, they'll take out a parking space to put in like picnic benches and that kind of thing. Or they'll take an empty building or an empty lot and they'll set up a temporary like gathering space there.
So temporary, not like what the library's doing behind.
The library, oh,
They
and
got the whole amphitheater going in. Or
no,
is that's not-
yeah,
okay.
and that's not in the downtown zone. So it
Okay.
needs to be in the downtown zone.
Okay.
So, and then business of the year. And then economic vitality is an economic enhancement effort that resulted in job creation, retention, sales growth, profitability, increased assets, or influx of new dollars. And special projects are things that don't fit in any of the other categories. So I would like you, if you have a project or something you want to nominate, to email Mara
Okay.
before July 1st.
Okay.
That way we can bring them to the July 1st meeting and discuss them.
Okay.
Okay?
And what's your advice? This is. I mean, we don't need to. It's just whatever we come up with or want to do.
It's-
We don't need to,
Can we
well,
do it?
one, we don't need to do any of.
You don't
this.
need to do any of them.
Well,
Correct.
Obviously, but it's fun and.
It's fun,
Cool.
yeah,
Can we do it as an
And-
individual rather than as a committee? I mean, if I want to
Mm.
nominate somebody, does. the
Yes,
whole-
you can nominate somebody, but the actual form has to be filled out by our Main Street organization. So you would have to send it to, like, if you wanted to do like best volunteer and you want it to be secret, we could totally do that. Just-
Myself.
Yeah, just email Mara and she'd be happy to help
That's
you with
funny.
that form.
So
So
don't tell anybody.
yeah,
except for
yeah,
us.
you should, if you don't have her email address, I will send it out to
That's funny.
everybody. Because today is her first day, so.
Oh, my God. Oh,
Are you
yeah,
ready to
so
quit
so
by
late,
now?
huh?
Oh, we've just kind of drenched her in information all day.
Jeez. Oh, my gosh, so tired.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just whatever we come up with and we
Whatever
can
you come
do
up with.
2 of them or all 10 or
Yep,
11 or, okay.
So
Cool.
if you're like,
'Cause at first it was like a little overwhelming. I was like, oh, wow,
yeah, no.
this is all.
Just if you want to pick one,
But, yeah.
or you want to, pick two, or you're
Mhm.
really excited, let's say you're really excited, you thought that the passport was amazing and you
Mm.
wanted to nominate that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, brainstorm for sure. There's a lot of.
and then Connie
Mhm.
had sent an email out to everybody.
Yeah.
So we want to catch up with Connie about the 4th of July because that is coming up.
Yeah.
So
Yay.
I'm going to hand it to Connie.
Okay, well, the most important thing has been accomplished, and that's getting the porta potties.
Oh
So
my gosh.
life is good after that.
Yes.
I sent a message out to everybody. It was kind of late, but just listing kind of what help is needed on the 4th. The one category I forgot was judges, but that's at least 2 people that would go to 2 people for the animals, the floats and the cars. And they would discreetly walk around and pick out which ones would be first, second, third place. And
Nice.
all this is not falling on the committee. Invite your friends, or
Yeah.
it's such a short period of time to get this stuff done,
Right.
Mhm. And we do have a
mother,
list of
daughters, father, son,
volunteers
kids,
too.
families
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
go around and do the judging and stuff,
Mhm.
Probably the biggest challenge is blocking off the downtown and getting the barricades set up. But again, we get enough people and it goes really well.
Easy,
Really
quick,
quick.
yeah.
So,
So from your email, there's about like 20 people that we need-ish.
yeah,
Or I
at
mean,
the most.
really
I mean, but
however many, but
yeah.
from what.
But again, it's just the longest running requirements is the registration up at the funeral home and then at River Mill, checking people in.
Yeah, the floats and
Because
stuff.
that'll be from about, we say 8 o'clock, but people start showing up at 7:30.
Mm,
We cut it off at 9:30,
okay,
so.
cool. And we
and
can
that's
share this
usually the
everywhere.
bus-
We can share this anywhere.
Pardon?
We can share this.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll
I
make,
mean,
I'll make
Facebook
a
or whatever.
form on the website that people can
Oh,
sign
good.
up.
Oh, cool.
So we can do that. That'd
Yeah.
probably be the
You're gonna
easiest thing.
show her how to do all that.
Yeah,
right?
I'll show Mara how to do that. So I'll make a form and I will email it out to the committee. But I want to make sure that you have it on your radar. And so if you and your family are like, hey,
Yeah.
here's a fun thing to
It
do.
is. it
Let's
is a
go
fun
judge
little thing.
the
Yeah,
animals,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah,
just a short period of time.
and just be a part of it.
Yeah,
It's a good
yeah.
day.
But other than that, it's going well.
Yeah.
We did get some applications in already. Cities taking money, so a lot of people wait to find out what they're doing that day before they actually register, so it's going well. You know,
So, and then the Uncorked Harvest Festival. If you have any businesses that you know that would be interested in sponsoring, just let me or Mara know so we can contact them, because I think that's where we're gonna need more sponsors.
and kind of after the 4th, we can maybe focus more on getting committees together and assignments made to
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
Has that been in like a newsletter
The
asking for,
asking for sponsorship.
yeah,
Yeah, we
or
did
can
send
that
out,
be? Yeah.
we did send it out in a newsletter.
Okay.
I think we sent it out actually last month.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. And we got a couple for the 4th of July.
cool.
So, yeah.
And then real quick about the passport, we got one person turn it
We
in or
got
multiple, or?
3.
Oh,
People turned it in.
Nice.
So, and
We
then
got three
Taylor
places.
came in and picked out which one was first, second, and third earlier this week. And
oh,
so,
cool.
but I will have, or Mara will have a whole report at the next meeting about the impact on it. So she's going to go around and collect all the passports
Mhm.
from the people who participated. So we know how many were
Mm.
not handed out.
Okay.
So get a good idea about how many were in circulation, even if people didn't go and get all the stamps, they
Yeah.
visited
They
some of
still
them.
grabbed them.
Yeah. And then, we'll have the report that'll also show the impact of like the social media posts that we did
Mm.
about it. And we had it in the newspaper. And so, all those things
Yeah.
will be in there.
Cool.
And we haven't called the award winners yet because last week was a short week and this week we're just starting Mara. So
Yeah.
maybe that will be a project for her tomorrow or the next
Fun.
day. Yeah.
Lucky.
Yeah, because that's one of the fun parts of the
Yeah.
job. You get to call people and say,
You actually
"Hey,
did it.
you got $300.
Yeah.
Cha-ching.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Three people, three people?
Three people.
Not related.
Not related.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, they have different last names, so I'm assuming not related. So yeah.
Oh, whatever, they did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Okie dokie. Then I guess, oh, we didn't do public comment, but I don't know if there's anybody in the waiting room. Let me check. Okay, 0 attendees. Yes. So then I guess we just have commissioner comment?
Well,
Yes.
I'd like to know a little bit about Mara.
Oh, okay.
Can you speak into the microphone and tell us your background, why you want to do this?
Yeah, so as Elena shared, this is my first day. I moved to Estacada about a couple months ago. Prior to this role, I was an advocate for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. So quite different, but a lot of my work experience is in administration. And so I kind of wanted to get a little bit back into that, but also apply the kind of community outreach that I was doing and just working with folks. So this job seemed to be a good fit in that way. And I talked about earlier where I moved from. What else would you like to know?
And Mara is bilingual.
Oh, yes, yes, trilingual.
Trilingual.
But
yeah.
yes, I'm Romanian, so I also speak
cool.
Romanian, but also Spanish.
Oh, very good.
Wow.
Very good.
Oh, lucky.
It's a good skill to have for sure. Very helpful.
She's got some history with a lot of the DEI kind of things that we're going to be working
Yes.
on. We want, as a city, we're trying to focus on. So
So in your previous employment, was it with a private company or with the city or?
Oh,
was
yes, it was with Clackamas Women's Services, so nonprofit, but pretty
Okay.
much the DV organization
Okay.
for the county.
Good. All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I think you'll find it exciting and fun
Yeah, so far. I
and
mean,
challenging.
Yes, but I like to be challenged and
Good.
I'm looking forward to it.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good town.
Thank you.
Growing.
okay. Is there any other commissioner comments? Then I guess you can gavel us out.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, it
at
is
6:51. Ooh, that was a good one. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
No problem.
We were going to meet